one category. Now, this is the interesting one there. Appetitive versus aversive control. Right, so when clients come to us, or anybody comes to us for help, they can generally tell us what they don't want, right? It's very much focused on, I don't want this, I don't want that, I don't want that. Now, how do you deal with that?
Usually I want to get rid of
Yeah. Absolutely. So, you guys come from an ACT background, so it's fantastic. When we want to get rid of something, what is the behavior?
Avoidance.
Avoidance, exactly. So it's, we are basically everything that we want to get rid of, we're saying to the world, we're under aversive control. The world is controlling us, it's unpleasant, so I need to run away. I need to run away from things. Okay? And when we run away from things, do we have time for anything else? No, not much. And we kind of want to take our clients towards, well, just basically going back into life. We want them to start moving forward and to do things they want. Now, this is a little bit contentious because if you talk to Yvonne Barnes-Holmes of the RFT camp, because she's now doing her version of therapy, which is process-based behavioral therapy, another one. She would not like that because she looks at behavior, actually very consistent with FAP, in a very functional and analytical way. She would say, well, the flaw with ACT is you guys just talk about going towards and going away, and you guys think everything moving away is a bad thing, and everything moving forward is a good thing. She's saying, no, it's not that simple. Because how many of us have gone towards something to avoid something?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Then
Okay. Can you give an example before we get really technical? So, what have we gone towards in order to avoid something unpleasant? So, talk about appetitive, just like her example is like the rat's pressing the button.
Yeah.
What buttons do we press to try and avoid an experience?
Going towards getting a hug to avoid feeling sad.
Yeah, you could, something that looks really nice could actually be quite problematic. So I can just go around touching people and you have to make me feel better. Like shopping, like going out every night,
Okay.
like helping everybody, so you don't have to think about your own problems.
Sometimes I guess going away can also be helpful as well.
Sorry?
And I remember thinking the reverse of moving away from something, so moving away from a bad relationship that's not helpful, so you can move towards what you want instead.
Absolutely. So that's her criticism of it, because it's been used understandably for training purposes. I think we've simplified it to actually moving forward or away, but actually on a pure functional analysis level, we've got to look at the situation, right? So potentially moving away is a CRB2.
It's a CRB1.
Exactly. So this is where FAP is a little bit more accurate because we've stuck to the core function analysis. So just bearing that in mind if you come from an ACT background. But for the sake of shorthand and for the sake of training therapists, I think people have sort of just made it a little bit more approachable that way. But I just want to throw that in. So I just basically said, actually, it's fine because we do want our clients to move towards something, but we don't want them to move towards anything. We want them to move towards something that's meaningful. And this is where FAP brings in ACT as well. There's another framework to hang behavior. Okay, how can we identify what is useful, what's not useful? And the dead person analogy. Can an ACT person share this to the group?
Dead person goals.
Yeah. So if you're a therapist and these are your clients, that you just let them experience.
It's something that the premise is it's not really, it's never going to work. We're alive, so it's a goal that's not tangible, so you can't get to it.
So what's the goal? What would your client be asking you?
Well, I guess you could use I want to get rid of anxiety.
Yeah. Actually, I come to you, you have to fix me. I'm sick of being shit every day. Right? You're going to help me feel better, right?
Yeah. And then, that's not achievable. We can't get rid of a specific feeling. So,
What? But I'm paying you money to do that.
not a magician.
Okay, so you're all familiar with dead person's goal. The only person that can't feel, well, that's a dead one. Right? Because
See, I didn't interpret what can't be felt. I interpret it as what can a dead person do that a living person can't. So if I was to turn around and say, a dead person's not going to shout at my kids, a dead person's not going to lose their temper, a dead person's not going to do this, as opposed to these are goals that you can't achieve as a dead person, it's pointless. So you want a living person goals, you want things that you can actually achieve. So, what can you tolerate, what can you suppress, what will not suppress, but those things as opposed to that.
yeah. No, I think that's another way of putting it. I guess your example, does it make being dead more appetitive or more aversive? Because you always make it sound actually quite appetitive to me. That's the only problem. Right. So maybe think about that reframe and who you use that with. Because if you're using that with somebody who's really desperate and at the end of their tether, it's like, I like that dead person's goal. I don't have to shout at my kids. I don't have to deal with, annoying relationships. Oh yeah, good idea. Thanks, James. So yeah, just a little bit careful about, what you're offering. Is it appetitive or is it actually aversive? And I think the way the example's made is actually, do you really want dead person's goals because they're not alive, they're not living? So hopefully it creates an aversive flavour. And so this takes us to ACT, which is a way of helping you conceptualize FAP in a simpler way. So we're going to take from ACT, especially the matrix, and kind of thinking about, well, what is a CRB1? CRB1 potentially are the things that we move away from, so it takes us out of life. And CRB2, so 2s are things that we move towards and take risks to be in life. Okay? So that simplifies identification again and formulation. Right. Now, a little bit of an exercise. Can you think of a time in your life when you felt vulnerable and authentic and connected to someone? So, what I want you to do is, I want you to, a bit like this morning, and please use all the space here, I want you to just move around the room. And in silence, and if you're going to start giggling, notice your discomfort. I want you to just look at people around you. Some people will draw you towards. It's interesting. You kind of naturally feel more comfortable walking towards certain people. Some people you will consciously or unconsciously trying to avoid. I just want to notice what people evoke in you. Right? So first part, just move around the room and just notice, like magnets, what bounced you, what bounced, who are you bouncing off? Without saying anything. You're evoking some of the similar feelings. Maybe, maybe not. Right. So just take that experience with you for now. And go back to your seat. I should say we're taking a break at 11, but if you need a loo, just go. So, this is kind of an exercise about tuning into your own barometer for people. So, do you want to share your experience?
For me, because I use ACT, right? And for me, it's really hard to connect and move towards always without the function, right? Like the values. So whenever I'm starting to climb, I really like to tune in the values part. And I thought that the exercise was quite intuitive, you know. So it was a little bit hard of like, what would I like if I moved towards this person or away? Like, you know, what I'm going towards, it's what is missing for me. So it's very like...
You need a reason to go towards.
Yeah.
Okay, otherwise your body is doing what?
Inactive, almost.
Okay, so without a good reason, you notice physically actually,
Yeah.
you just inactive. It just
I
stays
just
there.
want to say, at some point I just wanted to be.
Yeah, I felt similar, but it's disconnected.
Yeah. Okay. That's interesting to notice.
Mine was similar to what they're saying. I felt quite selfish because I kind of had this like, not an epiphany, but this realization that unless I actually want something from you, or I don't want something from you, I don't feel anything towards you. So that exercise, I didn't want anything, I was just walking around. So I was really neutral. But like say, for example, I wanted something from you, I wanted your help, or I wanted a hug or something like that, and you know, I'd feel like these strong like pulls. But or if I didn't want to talk to anyone, you started coming towards me and it looked like you wanted a conversation, I think I would be pissed off. Please God, mate. But I wouldn't say that, but that's what I'd be feeling inside. That instance, none of those things came up, so I really struggled to actually connect with anything.
So far I'm noticing like actually a lot of people's bodies seems to want to repel contact. Isn't it interesting? How we work as therapists. Well, yeah.
I think I found that, like, moving through the room, I felt a bit awkward and on edge, but then there was pockets of people where I was like, these are my people, I'm just relax here with this person, and that felt really nice.
Yeah, so different people signal safety for you
Yeah.
as well, and that's nice to have that in you. So, saying, just come back, just kind of your own internal experiences of that. So we've had feedback about, okay, this kind of disconnectedness, and actually without a purpose to move forward towards somebody, the status quo is actually, I'd rather stay still or rather pull away. Who else shares that? So, you know, I'd rather be pulling away right now.
It was really weird for me that, because it was like every so often I'd see someone, I'd automatically smile. There was just no, I couldn't help it.
Yeah.
And then I definitely started following Barbie around the room because she feels safe to me, and I started sort of just being like, I'm just going to follow you. And then I actually ended up kind of going into a little corner for a bit of space, and I was like, wow, this is really intense. I just need to get away for a bit. And then again, I came back and followed Barbie. A little bit, so yeah, that's what I did. Yeah. Interesting.
Okay, so what is this teaching you about you? Because you guys, you know, you're chosen to do a profession that's people-focused. And what is your honest feeling about people around you?
I'd say for me it's curiosity, because in this room I didn't feel repelled by anyone. I actually felt curious. Because I'm like, today in this room, and this obviously in outside life I will feel like unsafe or repelled by some people, that's natural. But I get a sense of safety here, and it's like, I know that every single person can offer me something. So I will be drawn to them because I know that they have something to offer.
Yeah.
So as I was walking around, I was very curious and looking like, you know, what could they offer me? Just so that was very curious. And then the second part, I moved to Fran because I'm like, I was safe around her, and I know that that's like,
That's your relaxation zone. Okay.
I have to be honest. I was really focusing on the questions that you put up. I went through into my life and I started answering these questions myself. So I missed your first question. So I was just fake. I just walked around. And I wonder if any of you noticed with my eyes whether I was just fake. And I looked at people and just couldn't know. To be honest, I saw lots of fakeness in the room. Did I see anyone being true? I saw people being friends with each other. But I didn't true. And because I missed the second time, I was just moving around. Sometimes, how do you know when someone's being true or fake?
That's the thing, isn't it? It's because we're
How do you know
often-
someone's really moving to like, no, I can fake to be nice and show me. And I thought that was more interesting on that.
I guess that's an internal thing as well, isn't it? If you're feeling fake yourself, then, yeah, when you're moving around the room, you're also, that's going to be in the forefront. You're going to be questioning whether other people are being authentic or not.
I think also people can feel that because for me, the way I did it was by basing people's smiles. So if your smile was quite full of warmth, like Kelsey, Natalie, and Amy, again, people's smiles that stood out to me a lot. I was just like, ooh, like, and Clarissa, I was very interested and intrigued about you guys. But then the more I focused on it, the more I could see the fakeness in some people's smiles, and I'm like, no, I don't want to be near you. And I found with some people, even though they were smiling at me, I just looked away, like I just dropped my gaze and skidded around them, and then ended up in my room.
So then I think you're really good point, because FAP is about natural reinforcement. And you're right, if we're fake, how effective is that natural reinforcement? And if we bring our stuff into the room with our clients, are we bringing intellectual empathy, which is, we can have intellectual empathy, or are we bringing genuine emotional empathy? Because some clients can definitely tell the difference between both.
Something interesting you said yesterday, I think it was. You said when there was a conversation around people saying share, thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
When there's no real
There was more
meaning
focus on the word thank you.
Authentic.
Mm.
And I made a note about myself.
Yeah.
Sometimes just like how easy in life you say things like words that you don't really mean.
Superficial.
I wonder if your client knows that. They're not really through. And then it's only when we got to know each other a bit more, and we're moving towards each other, we start to really listen to something more functional. I know that's a good example in my mind, really way towards connectedness.
I think it's a really important point, and it's something I'm mindful in when I'm working with clients. So what highlighted it for me is because we had a relatively large group yesterday, so there were 5 of us around the table, and pretty much feedback. Every single feedback started with thank you for sharing, thank you for sharing, thank you for sharing. And when you hear that repetition of phrase over and over again, it loses its meaning. So when I'm trying to talk to someone, and I'm a bit of like a grammar Nazi in that respect, so if I'm writing a letter or if I'm talking to someone, if I hear myself using the same language over and over again, if they use the same language, if someone says like, it's like, I can feel myself getting vexed. It's like, expand your language, but at the same time, I want to use genuine language. I want to be
it's
articulate.
important to listen out and to discriminate between what is a token language that we're socialized with and what is coming from here in the client. And it's something that's so nuanced that you can only experience here yourself, and to be able to detect that. Otherwise, with clients, how are you today? Oh, so you're fine, nothing to worry about.
That's not building up your therapeutic relationship, isn't it? Building your rapport and building that, that's when it becomes authentic.
Yeah.
Because I think whenever you're in a first session with a client, you don't have that connection. Because
Well, I would argue FAP allows you to build that connection instantaneously. They cut time. You don't, it's like, how many 6 sessions to build that rapport? FAP allows you to build it from the moment you meet them. And it's about reducing that distance very quickly. So, and part of that, you learn how do you discriminate between, okay, yeah, I'm fine. No, you dive deep straight away. Actually, you look a little bit unsettled. Can we take a moment? Okay, how do you actually feel now? So even those kind of interventions and evokes immediately deepen the relationship.
I think that's really interesting because I work a lot with teenagers and I find that I do that more with with younger people than I would with older clients, because I always think it must be really uncomfortable coming into a situation where you don't know, as a 13, 14-year-old sitting in a room where you don't know someone. So I find it much easier to do it with a younger person than I would with someone older.
So then,
That was that saying. Yeah.
exactly. So there's more sense of protectiveness and
Yeah.
greater sensitivity.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's about risk taking with the older generation.
Yeah.
So it's easier to say it to a young person, but
Yeah.
somebody who's, older than you, would you do that? Yeah, so we have all these blocks. Okay, so cannot reach completion. So what is the value? And yes, I like people. I'm going to pick on you guys because you've done loads of this. So how do you recognize what's a value?
What's value?
What's a value?
You can't get to it. A goal is something tangible. You can reach a goal. Values are not tangible.
It's a gift that keeps on giving, is a metaphor they like to use. It's something that you keep going towards, and when you get good outcomes from going towards that, the outcomes reinforcing. So, I love to learn, and now I'm teaching. So the more I teach, it becomes a gift that keeps on giving. It's a pain in the ass, because you have to set up, you have to organize things. There's lots of pain to get to the teaching, but the process itself is rewarding.
So are you talking about abstract concepts or things that they value?
Valuing is never abstract in the behavioral work. It's a behavior.
Sure, I mean in terms of they are manifested physically in the world.
In that, yeah.
So a belief.
If we can do it.
So it can be an action.
Okay, how would you explain it? So valuing is always a verb. So
Sure.
in the act world, it's always about, I value learning. Learning is something I do.
Sure, so if I was doing acts and I started to do value-driven work and I would ask them what they value, then I would get examples of physical things like individuals or objects, and then I would get abstract concepts, right, abstract may be the wrong word, but things that aren't physical. Such as love.
Okay.
Learning. These are things that you can't go, oh, here's my learning, I've got it in my pocket. So there's a difference between physical and, so I was just looking for a definition from you in terms of what you mean, because it sounded like it was more kind of
Yeah, that's a really
abstract.
good question, because this is where it becomes interesting. We want to bring those, high-level terms into something that's tangible and doable and operationalized.
Gotcha.
So when somebody says, I love my wife, okay, so how do you display that love? What do you do for her?
Sure.
What is the moments that you...
What are you doing when you're loving her?
Sorry?
What do you do when you're loving her?
What do you do when you're loving her? That's really nice way of putting it. Absolutely. And we want to bring that down to that level and identify that. Okay. So, and also, most values, I would say, because we're bringing a little bit of evolutionary science, I think it's very grounded into what's hardwired in us. And it just gets a little bit fancy with the language. But fundamentally, what's hardwired in us is bonding, attachment. So a lot of valuing is around relationships and relating to people and bonding to people. A lot of valuing is around curiosity and seeking things, right? For survival, we need to forage and look for things. So a lot of valuing is about that. And a lot about valuing is stimulation, potentially, about play, because to be curious, again, keeps us alive. And also there's something that's quite intrinsically reinforcing, which is we like to feel we have impact on the world. Right? So if I push you and you move, ooh, I want to do it again. So there is something valuing about, oh, I want to create an impact, I want to do this for people, and because they want to see that impact come back. So if actually ground it right down, I think we can track it back to what's already hardwired. So then that becomes intrinsically reinforcing. Does that make sense? Okay. So, and let's see. Yeah. So we're going to take a break before going on to that. We'll start the next session on that. But let's take 15-minute break.
Yeah.
Is that coffee and tea?